Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have a special guest. His name is Ryan Matthews. Hey, Ryan.
Hey, what's going on, Cesar?
Good, doing good, man, doing good. So let me introduce you, and then we can diving into who you are more in detail and really your overall story. So Ryan is a K-9 Mentalist. Is a combat veteran turned celebrity dog trainer. He began his career in the Army while training and handling elite military working dogs. After his honorable discharge from the Army, Ryan began applying his K-9 Mentalist strategies and successfully transformed the lives of more than 3,000 dogs and their owners by applying the lessons he learned while training dogs. Ryan has managed to overcome severe PTSD, childhood trauma, and near-death experiences. He shares his valuable knowledge in 2 TEDx talks, books, reality TV, talk shows, and news appearances. Online, one can find his e-learning program with 200 instructional dog training videos. The results-driven DIY dog training school was created as a way to prevent dogs from being returned to shelters where they face euthanasia simply because of their naughty behaviors. And you can learn more about that with Ryan. I gotta tell you, that is amazing. Like I have one dog, and I can definitely I cannot see my life without him. So I know you've built this life and with K9. So before we dive into that, though, let me know about what were you born? What is your upbringing? I want to know more about your childhood.
Oh man, I like it. We're gonna go deep real quick, and I can get with that, man. So I grew up here in Southern California, and what's interesting about my upbringing is I know 2 different ways to be, right? So like I've lived in I wouldn't say affluent, but a pretty well-off neighborhood, but I've also been on the other side too. And so I'm pretty flexible. Like I can talk to the streets, or I could talk to boardroom. I'm pretty flexible and diverse in that way. I got into drug dealing because I always wanted to be like my older brother, who was he was the kind of person that would run the prison when he was locked up. And I always wanted to be like him. You know, you admire your older brother. And it took a lot of years, man, in fact, into my 30s, where I discovered like I was trying to be someone that I wasn't, right? And so I was, trying to be this machismo. I'm part Mexican. My mom's Mexican and Native American. And that's a part of me. And at the same time, I was fronting and being fake. And so what I've learned is that, like, yes, I have a badass side, combat vet and this and that, but really I'm a very kind and loving and genuine person. And I dormant that and show the machismo is what I was doing as a kid. And so anyways, I would say that, I come from a pretty dysfunctional childhood, violence and these kinds of things that you see. And it could have been a whole lot worse. But, I was not from family members, but from an outside of the family, was victim of molestation. And so that, that took a toll as well. And I buried it, man. I never really shared that until my 30s, to be honest with you. And so when I got into the drug dealing, one day my friend tried to rob me, and I tried to stab the guy. Now, I didn't really know what I was doing. I never asked my brother, like, does it matter the kind of knife that you use or this and that? Well, the knife that I used, it ended up slipping out of my hand when I tried to stab this guy, and it nearly cut my finger off. And so this guy threatens to blow my head off with a shotgun a few days later. And I'm not gonna lie, man, I got scared. And so, given the pattern, and I still have been doing this today as an older adult, is run away. And so that's what I did. I went and joined the army, and I figured, like, well, if I don't get to have the discipline from my family growing up, I'll get it from the military. And the other part was like, I figured if you can't beat them, join them. And so I wanted to get away from the streets and these kinds of things. And I wasn't banging or nothing like that, but I was affiliated and hanging out with people that were pretty rough. But I was like, I got to find a different way. So I actually joined as military police.
Mm.
And so it's kind of crazy, right? Like I went on the other side. Now, what's even crazier is when I was in the army, I learned to train drug dogs. So you got like a former drug dealer working the drug dog, man.
Yeah.
Can't
Wow.
make this stuff up.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let me ask you this: like, this is one thing that comes to mind. What part of SoCal are you?
Oh, I'm in Orange County.
Orange County. All right. So you're like my neighbor. I'm in LA County. I'm by USC.
Oh yeah.
So we're not too far. So very, although it's a little bit different, right? Orange County to LA County or that stuff. Like, what was one thing, like, being, like you said, have a family from Mexico and having that background, like, what led you to, besides your older brother, what led you to say, you know what, I want to go down this path of probably drug dealing or getting into the negative influences? Because one of the things that I've learned talking to many different people, a lot of times comes down to the acceptance. Like, I'm not being accepted in my own family or my own, mom or dad. And so people or kids tend to seek the acceptance of community, family, or that feeling elsewhere. And they tend to find it in gangs or, those kind of people. What was it for you?
For me, it was lifestyle, man. Like I grew up with, like, Art Laboe oldies.
Yeah.
I grew up with the culture, man, rap and hip hop. I grew up with that, and I liked the lifestyle. I was just drawn to it. It kind of like, it spoke to me. Like the surfer kids didn't really speak to me. Wasn't really feel like my thing. I would rather be into like Ben Davis, or Dickies, something like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, it kind of spoke to me. But I think there was also this element of, like, how do you say it, glamorizing, mainstream cholos and stuff like that. And you kind of want to be that. And then my brother would bring in, like, to the house, like some hardcore guys. Like, when they come into the house, man, you're just like, damn, like, you're like, oh man, like, I don't know what you've been through, but like, you can just feel the presence. So
yeah,
I was actually attracted to, like, some of the power that I thought could come from it. And I fantasized, actually, I'm also part Italian. So I'm a mutt. I'm Mexican, Italian, Scottish, and Native American. And like, I was kind of drawn towards actually, like, mafia, just straight up. Like, I never did nothing there, but I kind of was always intrigued with that lifestyle. And it could have went one way or the other, man, to be honest with you, because I did like the glamour of it, what I perceived to be the glamour, the power, and the support too. Because I can't say, I also dealt with, like, hardcore child abandonment as a kid, like being left home alone and stuff. So I guess there's like the family piece.
Yeah. And then the other thing too that you talked about is, like, well, dealing with that, and now you're like, you know what, I'm like, maybe I need to run away, right? And a lot of times, as we see it, although this turned out to be something good for you, a lot of times people tend to run away from their problems without realizing that those problems or those challenges are going to continue to chase them down. And so for you, though, you run away. Like, what was that? Was that like, this is my way out to get out of this because I don't want that anymore? Or it was more of a, I just need to run away?
It was like something wiser than myself, where it was like, this isn't what you want to do. You got to find another way. Don't know how to do it. Maybe this can provide a solution. And I was afraid of my life. It was really twofold.
Yeah. So now that you decided to run away and you obviously went to the military police, like, I know that's kind of hard too, right? I've never been in the army, but I hear stories like in the sense of it is a lot of discipline. It's definitely lonely. There's different things, right? So again, being part of a community of, whether it's toxic people or not, you have people around you in a different aspect. Now you're going to the military. You don't know anybody. It can get lonely. It can be more disciplined. How do you take all of that coming from your background?
Yeah, I definitely struggled with fitting in, man. I mean, just to be transparent, I was pretty selective on who I would hang out with growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't fit, if you weren't interested in like hip hop, rap, oldies, if you weren't interested in, wearing Nike Cortez shoes and you didn't understand what any of that was about, then I didn't really want to have anything to do with you. So I kind of struggled initially with the military, but I also then kind of embraced it. Like it was kind of like a new chapter. And so I really learned to get along with many different cultures and people with different backgrounds. The Army really taught me that, man. Now, what's funny is, I joined to like do good, right? But I ended up being under investigation within my first 6 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I got caught up in some stuff and I'm like, oh man, this plan didn't work out like I thought.
It never does, right? Never does.
Yeah.
You know what? One thing you said I think is very important, and I feel like it was a golden nugget, is that although you were very selected on who you were hanging around and all that stuff, you ended up embracing it. You ended up, some people say you surrender, not in the way of giving up. You surrender to accept, to embrace, to bring that into your space. And I think that's critical in anything that we do. So maybe if you can kind of throw more into that, because I believe that's a very powerful message where like, how do you go from being this badass guy and I don't give a crap by anybody and I'm going to be very selective to like, you know what, I'm going to be more sympathetic about the different things and just embrace it, surrender, accept it, and use it to my advantage.
Well, it started with getting checked too. Like, so I try to run my mouth a little bit initially, and like I just round into lots of fights and problems, and then I'm like, this isn't working out so much. They're used to like that Cali chip on the shoulder machismo, like it wasn't working out for me, and which was interesting because younger, like I could control situations, that's interesting too. Conversation about control, and so the Army kind of helped me give in and, like you said, surrender. And I think there's a real important lesson in all of what we do, regardless of whether it's with our family, our profession, or our hobby. And it's a matter of like being present. And I can tell you, Cesar, like that's been how I've been able to get great results with dogs, is I block out all the distractions in my life and I'm just fully present with that animal. And I'm only focused on the desired outcome that we want to create together with that animal. And what's crazy is we could do the same thing with the people in our life. Like you and I right now, putting everything else aside, it's just you and me. And like, I call that the richness of life. It's like, what feels so good, and things get heightened because you're being fully present. You're not allowing to fall for the distractions, and you are giving that other thing in front of you all of your time and attention. And they say time is love and love is time. And so I think that's really important, is being able to surrender, but then also being fully present, which was what I was finally able to do in the Army.
Wow, I love that. Richness of life, time is love, love is time. I love that concept of that. That's pretty awesome. So obviously, how long were you in the military for?
Yeah, man, I served 6 years. I went to the war. I volunteered to go to the war with a bomb dog.
Okay.
After drug dogs, went to the bomb dogs, and that was pretty crazy. Like, I also don't want to mislead people when they hear that I train bomb dogs and work with the Secret Service and special forces overseas. They have this perception in their head automatically. And I'm about keeping it real with people. And so I was very fortunate, Cesar. My friend, he and I deployed together, but went to separate locations. He got blown up and his dog died. So, I just want to, honor what they had been through, because it could have been me. It was a 50-50 of who could have went where. But again, I want to just share that when people have that perception, no, I didn't get shot. No, I didn't get blown up. Yes, I worked with the bomb dog. Yes, all this other stuff. But I was very fortunate. It's like I had these angels with me, or I had support beyond the military.
Right.
And so,
that's awesome, man. And by the way, I gotta say thank you for your service. I mean, I have so much respect for people that put their lives in line to serve the rest of us, right? So that's amazing. So thank you for that. So how do you go from having this PTSD, childhood trauma, near-death experiences to the military, and now like writing books, reality TV, TEDx talks, like all of this. Like, how did that all come into place?
Yeah. They say that like a lot of times people have a spiritual awakening. And that's what it was for me. And so in 2011, it was really life-changing, where I went through cancer and heart attack back to back. I went through negative press and got locked up, and this stuff became known nationwide. I was on the news and on the TV, and on the front page of the newspaper. But none of that woke me up. Being locked up in jail didn't wake me up either. It wasn't until what I thought was the second heart attack. And I was 35 years old. So this was 5 years ago.
Wow.
And I remember feeling like really weak, and then like a darkness come over me. And I remember I was home alone, and I remember feeling like this was about to be the last moment on earth. And I called 911. I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. I don't know what's going on. And I just felt so weak, man, that like my head started to drift down towards the ground. I was sitting down, and I remember my head was about 18 inches from the ground, and I wanted to just lay down and give up. And I was, then all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, this is it. I didn't do everything I wanted to do. I didn't become the person that I wanted to become. I just put it off, and I took my life for granted. And so I just begged for my life. I reached out to this higher power, and I admitted all of those things. I said, look, I could have done more. I'm not who I want to be, but I can become that. I just need a chance. Please give me one more chance. Like literally, I'm saying this.
Yeah.
And I said, if you give me this chance, I promise I'll serve other people. I'll share how I did it so they can do it too, and give them a great life and not have to go through the pain that I did. And right when I thought I was done, like last moment on earth, I started to feel better gradually. And then the 911 ambulance came and this and that, and they don't really know what happened, but I do. I woke up. And so that was the crucible changing moment. And now I'm just acting out my soul contract. And so I was like, well, I want to rid others of the pain that I've been through. How can I do that? I got to start to speak, because I was quiet because of that negative stuff on the TV. And so I was like, I want to become a professional speaker. And I didn't know how to do that. And I began to go down that journey. And then next, these TEDx talks happened. And I am looking for more speaking engagements because I just love it. So that was one way. Actually, it served as therapy, which is dangerous. You don't want to have your audience be your therapy for you, right? And so it was one lesson that I learned. And then I just really, just felt drawn to share more. Now there's an element of, that I have some health stuff. I have autoimmune, the cancer, the heart attack, and these things. And so it makes me wonder, like, when will be my last day? And so for that, I'm like, I want to share. I want to put stuff out there. And that's kind of how it's been. But really, it just comes down to wanting to share my gifts with other people for their benefit and helping transform their lives, because that's what happened to me, was I was transformed.
I really love that. And it reminds me kind of what you're talking about. And just kind of to put things into perspective, the idea of, you having that cancer, that heart attack, that second heart attack. Les Brown talks about this, and he does an analogy and said, imagine that you're laying down on your deathbed, and surrounding you are the ghosts of all of the ideas and things you could have come to life. And now they're there telling you, we could have come to life. We could have written that book. We could have done all these things. But now we have to die with you because you didn't speak up and you didn't go out and do it, right? And that's exactly what you said. Like you're doing it. Like you're trying to deliver this message. And so I guess one big takeaway from this conversation here is that don't allow your dreams and your ideas to go with you, right? Make sure that you bring them out to life. Another one that he talks about, which I love really, is that the richest place in earth is not where you have the gold or the diamond mines or any of that stuff. The richest place on earth are the cemeteries, because there's ideas, thoughts that never came out of life because they died with those people, right? And so that's amazing, man. I gotta say that's something that people need to really we all have a story. We all have something. We all have a gift. And I always tell people that if you're listening to this, you're watching this, that means that God or the universe or whatever you believe in is not done with you. There's a bigger purpose for you. And if you haven't found that purpose, start asking that question. What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do here? Right. And that's amazing, man. I love that.
Yeah, I think purpose is so important. I think that can help fuel us. And so if anyone needs help with that, I would encourage them to reach out to you or reach out to myself, because once you find that, you don't feel like you're working. You're in just total flow, and people can feel that when they receive whatever it is that you're great at. And for those that are listening that maybe don't know their purpose, I would encourage them to come from a place of curiosity and just say, look, I'm just going to play. I'm just going to be curious and see what's coming to me. What's that thing that like I think about when I wake up, and I think about it before I go to bed? Like that there lies the purpose.
Yeah, I love that. That's actually a good way to see it. I didn't see that. So what are your books? Tell me a little bit more about your books. What are they about, and what was the purpose of writing those books?
Yeah, well, again, the first book is The K-9 Connection. It's on Amazon, and it's a dog training book, but I'm also talking about dog psychology. The thing is, I'm charging a lot of money for my in-person time, and not everyone can afford that. And so I compiled everything that I know into that book so that they can go back and reflect on it after they try something and make sure they did it right. And then, they can have access to really quality training, for a fraction of the price. So again, it's the K-9 Connection. It's on Amazon. And then I have a second book coming out, and right now we're pitching it to publishers. And we were talking prior to the recording that I just got some bad news where the largest publisher in the world was ready to go, and they just backed out. And so, it's a good learning lesson for me. There was a gift in what they shared that's going to allow me to make some changes. And it has to be with me being a bit more engaging on social media. Straight up, that's what it came down to.
Yep. No, that's awesome. And then in terms of the TEDx talks, like I think that's amazing, right? And it's another way to really get connected with more people. What are some of your topics? Is it all around K-9?
Yeah. So what I'm really big into now is taking a dog behavior or issue, helping the person solve that. But you see, what's so crazy, Cesar, is that the dogs are a reflection of us. They mirror us. And so if the dog has an issue, it tells us something about that person too. And so the second book is actually Heal Your Dog, like H-E-E-L, heal, H-E-A-L, your life. Heal your dog, heal your life. And so now I'm getting more curious with this idea of, can my dog training approach and dog psychology that I come from, can that work on humans too? And according to the multiple psychologists that I've talked to, the answer is yes, which to me is just crazy. So
it's amazing.
Yeah, man. The first talk was overcoming PTSD using dog training techniques, which again, I'm sharing. This is how you can train any dog, and it's an acronym. And that can apply with people too, to overcome some of what they got going on. And the second talk is a lot lighter. It's let's treat each other more like dogs. And so the reason why is, like, if you think about it, when we come into the house, say, we greet the dog with all this, we talk like a little kid again, and we're having fun. And then when we see our significant other, we don't give them the same level of excitement and enthusiasm as we do the dog. Yeah. So we're treating an animal better than we're treating people. Yeah. So I just want to shed some light on that and invite people to maybe consider changing it up a little bit.
Yeah, and then on the reverse of that too is, like, even if you're having a really shitty day, a bad day, whatever happened in your life before you got to the house, the dog is ready to embrace you and greet you and bring you in with this happiness. Like, they want to play with you. They want to have all this fun with you. And I believe that it's a good way of soothing your life, because it changes the dynamics in your head. I mean, I know for me, like, I have a K-9, and there's days that I'm having a really bad day. I come home and he's there ready to, like, hey, dad, play with me. Like, let's do something, right? And so I believe that that's also something that we should take into account, that even if you don't have a K-9, just because they had a bad day, you shouldn't bring that into your household and take it on your wife or your kids or things to that nature, or your husband for that matter, right? Yeah. You shouldn't be able to do that. Like just like you receive your dog or the dog is ready to receive you, keep that in mind, right?
That's a great point, man. I can tell you that really resonates with me, and I know I've been guilty with that. I've been projecting my stuff onto other people, so I think that's really good for me to hear, and I would imagine it's good for other people to hear too.
Yeah, definitely. So 200 plus dogs, man. Like, how do you do that? Like, how do you even connect with that many dogs? Because I'm sure, just like human beings, they'll have different personalities.
Yeah.
The difference is that, well, in my opinion, obviously I'm not a dog trainer, so I don't know this, but I cannot communicate with them. Like, we don't speak the same language. Even if I want to talk to them in Spanish, they're not gonna understand, right? Like, so, like, how do you do this, man?
Yeah, that's a great question. And by the way, when you were speaking of your dog, I wanted to offer my services to you at no cost, just as a gift to support you and to share my craft. So feel free to reach out if you ever have a question. Now,
awesome. Thank you.
So just something to clarify, you mentioned 200 dogs. The 200 was actually the multiple videos that I created with this online dog training course.
Okay.
But I've trained over 3,000 dogs.
Holy cow. Wow. Even a bigger number, man.
Yeah. So how do I do it? And you were speaking about language, right?
Yep.
To be honest, language is irrelevant. You can train a dog nearly with saying nothing initially, because you see it's energetic. You see dogs communicate about 93% nonverbal, just like us. Like we nod our head at the same time, we cross our hands, cross our arms at the same time, and these types of things. It's a mirroring. Well, dogs do the same thing. But one thing that we tend to do is we talk too much to the dog. It's too much information. Like if I just keep saying to you, da, 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 you're like, hey man, that's a lot to just chill out.
Yeah.
When I slow it all down, and when I start to tap into, my heart, not just my mind on what I want from the animal, you can connect. Once you can connect, then you can communicate. Now the language, again, doesn't matter. But for me, it starts in my mind. I visualize the outcome that I want with the dog, and then I take the action, which is interesting. As I say that, it makes me think about, well, how is that any different than anything that we want to create or manifest in our own life? See it in your mind, be certain of it that it's going to happen with total confidence, and then take the necessary action to make it become a reality. Yeah. And so that's part of what I do.
I love that, and I can see that how that translates to even as human beings, and just being able to have that communication, right? Where a lot of times we forget to connect. We have build that rapport with people, and it really starts from that. Like when somebody feels that they can like and trust you, then you start building a better communication with that person. And again, sometimes we go straight to the punch. Like I oftentimes I get people on Facebook, right, or Instagram, and they're like already pitching you on how to sell you something. Like, hey, buy my program, do this, do that. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. What about if you connect with me first? Like, let's get to know each other before you tell me like, hey, buy my program of $2,000. And it happens a lot. A lot of people make that mistake. And I think that it's not just in business, it's in relationships, period, right? Whether they're love relationships or friendship relationships, it's like, you cannot just go for the punch. You have to connect and then communicate. Right. So I really love that.
That's a good point, man. I can relate. It's kind of like dating, It's like, hold on, we got to hold hands before you try to put your tongue down my throat. Like, chill out, slow down,
right.
slow down.
Yeah, exactly. Right. No, that's awesome. So, what's in store for you this year? What are some of the things that you're working on this year?
Yeah, well, a few things. So one is I'm creating more offers for the online dog training course.
Yep.
Right? And so it's worldofdogtrainingonline.com. And so that's one. The other one is creating a train the trainer program, because I can only help so many people train their dogs. So I'm providing an opportunity for people to gain a career as a dog trainer. And if they follow the system, they can make 6 figures a year. It's not that hard if they follow the system. And so a lot of times I'm working with people and they're like, man, this would be so fun to do this as a job or career. I'm like, well, why don't you? Why can't you? And I think they feel intimidated by it. And so anyways, I have a month-long program that certifies people to become not just a dog trainer, but a business owner in the profession of dog training. So that's a big one that I'm launching this year. And the other part is, really focusing on solidifying this book deal. And And so those are the two biggest projects that I would say.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. So if people wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, first of all, if they ever have any questions, they can just hit me up at ryan@worldofdogtraining.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then on social media, it's very easy. It's at I am Ryan Matthews, at I am Ryan Matthews.
Awesome. And one thing that I want you to elaborate a little bit more, you said trauma doesn't have to define you. Can you give me more of that?
Yeah, well, I can tell you that has been my reality, is that I was allowing it to define me. I would use that as almost an excuse for my lack of performance, success, or anger, or irresponsible behavior. I would allow my trauma to be the reason for my actions that I wasn't proud of or whatever. And so for me, it's a matter of doing the best we can to let go of our past. And we don't have to have this victim mindset. Right. And like, if we're willing to let go of some of that and step into this other way and kind of get it out of our own way, then I feel like anything is possible. There's so many successful people that are not just successfully in business, but in relationships and in tapping into their heart, because, that's, I think, something very important for those of us with trauma is we tend to live in our head. I know that's been my reality, but if we're able to drop down into the heart, it's almost as though the trauma doesn't have any power over us.
No, I love that. And one thing that I would say is my best, I'm not a relationship expert, but my best relationship advice is that make sure that you don't cheat on your future with your past. And sometimes we do that, right?
That's really good.
Yeah.
I love that. So there's one more project on that, is that I'm partnering with a top level relationship coach, a love doctor, if you will. And what we're doing is we're taking people that have a newborn or are future parents that have dogs as well. And what we're doing is we're helping them train their dog. You see, because as a family, you got to communicate, to get on the same page, to train the dog. You have to talk about boundaries. You have to follow through, and you have to care for that being. And so what we're doing is we're creating that program where they care for the animal as practice to care for that future child. So we have myself as the dog pro, and she's the relationship pro, and we're offering that new program. It's going to be launching here in about a month.
Oh man, I love it. I don't remember the series or the actual movie, but you remind me of Twilight, when you have the I don't know if you've seen the Twilight or any of those.
I'm going to look it up now, though.
Yeah, but it's talking about it. Well, it's where you have the dog, which is a wolf, is the caregiver of the little girl that just was born. So anyways, just reminded me of that right now. So talking about the mind, right? I think that's critical. And I think that anything that we do, it really comes down to how you work on your mind. And a lot of the challenges that we have come from the mind. There's an African proverb that I really like, and it says, when there is no enemy inside that can do you no harm, there's no enemy outside that can do you no harm, right? Or something to that nature.
That's really good, man.
Yeah. And it goes back to that, right? Like once you work on your mind and you really continuously work on that, there's nothing outside that can harm you, because you know what is true for you, right? So in your perspective and going through the things you've gone through and everything that you're doing, do you have any kind of Tony Robbins refers to them as rituals? Do you have any rituals or things that you do on a day-to-day basis to keep you in a positive state of mind?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a really great question, because for many years I was without purpose, and I didn't have a ritual, nor did I understand the importance of it. Now, I will share that what I'm going to give your audience is that this is my ideal ritual. Currently, I have a ruptured Achilles, right? And so my tendon is cut in half on my leg, and it has thrown off my ritual, to be totally transparent. But when I'm not injured with this, again, this has slowed me down a lot. It's been pretty difficult. When I'm on my A game or on my B game and trying to get to my A game, what I do is this. So I'm waking up, and the first thing that I do is I'm interacting with my dog, and I'm sharing love towards him, gratitude towards him, and I'm starting with something positive for the day. The other thing that I do is I actually import some really bougie water, and I down a glass of water to wake my body up. And so I'm drinking water. I don't drink coffee or tea, water only. And then what I'm doing is I quickly shower to rinse off any negative or uncomfortable dreams that I may have had that I don't remember. And so then what I'm going to do is I'm going to meditate. So now I've cleaned myself for the meditation. And so I meditate. And after the meditation, I bring myself back, interact with the dog a little bit, and then I'm going to work out. Okay. And so for me, I like to do cardio and weights. And while I'm working out, I'm either, if my energy's low, I'm gonna play some like gangster rap, honestly, is what I'm gonna do to get my heart rate going and getting worked up. Or I'm trying to learn. If my energy's good, I'm learning something. And the new one would be to listen to Clubhouse. You know, I know we're both on Clubhouse.
Yeah, right.
That's the new one that I would
That's
be
the
doing
new one. Yeah.
when I work out. Yeah. But always wanting to learn audiobook or this and that. And then I start my day. First appointment usually at 10 a.m. And so that's overall what I do. Now, what I was doing also for a while that was great was the cold plunge, cold shower. That's also a really good one too, to shift your mood. In fact, I'm having a bit of a rough day. I think I'm going to do the cold shower later today. And it'll probably help with my inflammation with my leg.
Yeah. You know what? I was doing that, doing the cold shower 5 minutes with the, I don't know if you've done the 75 HAR. But yeah. And so that was brutal. For sure, it's brutal, and especially right now. Obviously, we're in the same, pretty much the same area. So obviously for us compared to the East Coast, it's cold. It's getting cold, right?
Yeah.
At 50, 60 degrees, at least for me. But getting in the cold shower, it's definitely challenging. But I see the benefits of that, and I see the benefits of drinking water and meditating and all that stuff. So definitely, anyone that's listening, just if you can pick up some of the things that Ryan is doing in his day-to-day activities, use them for your advantage. Because at the end of the day, it's better to have a habit than not have a habit at all, and then expect something different, right?
That's great, man. I'll just say this, like, just to illustrate, before meditation, I literally have parked my car on the freeway, on the carpool lane by myself, because I don't like traffic. So I ride dirty, illegally. I do it. Anyways, I would get in a road rage, put my car in park on the carpool lane, get out of my car and try to yank people out of their car. I've done that. After meditate and many other crazy things. After meditating, I've been meditating for years now, a few years. None of that stuff is even close to happening. No road rage. It's been a game changer for me, man. It's really helped my mood. It's really helped me self-regulate, my irritability. It's been a game changer.
Yeah. Well, I have two more questions for you. I value your time. So definitely, I know you have things to do. But the first one is, I know people might be asking, like, how do you meditate?
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that, except how do you do it? Like, how do you meditate? How do you get into that state of mind to really quiet? I mean, well, I don't know. How's your meditation?
Yeah, well, one thing that I discovered is that I have to put my dog away, because he would come and bother me when I was meditating. He would just come and say hi. Yeah. Just want to like lay on my lap or something, and I don't want any stimuli. So when I meditate, now currently I'm doing a transcendental meditation practice. They call it TM. But prior to that, I was doing, I've tried a few other meditations, but really for me, it just comes down to doing it for 20 minutes a day, ideally twice a day. And to be transparent, I haven't been doing twice a day lately, but again, when I'm on my A game, it is twice a day. You feel even better. And it's a really just finding, if you like the guided, do the guided meditation. If you like a mantra, do a mantra, but figure out something that you will stick to that doesn't feel forced. I think that's what really matters most. So I would encourage people to, again, just be curious and start to play with it. There's apps. I use I think it's called an Insight Timer or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so there's different apps to use.
Yeah, there's another one that I use. It's called the Insight Timer. Actually, that's the one I use. Yeah, I have it here.
I'll find you on there.
Yeah. So that's another one too. But that's pretty awesome. The last question I have for you is, if people are going through any kind of a challenge, whatever that might be, you've given us already a lot of great tips, by the way. So hopefully I can get one more from you. What is one thing that you can say to people that they can start doing today to start overcoming that challenge, whatever that might be?
I would look at, what is the block? First of all, if there's a challenge, what is the block? So like going deeper. And so it's like, so my healer says it's the thing underneath the thing. See, the thing that's bothering you isn't really that's not really what it is. It's something deeper that is triggering that. If you can figure that thing out and heal that, then this other stuff is nearly irrelevant. And so what I would encourage people to do is discover their thing underneath the thing that it's either holding them back, getting them stuck, getting them triggered, getting them angry, having them feel whatever is that thing underneath the thing. Discover that, and then you're on your way to freedom.
Wow. I love that. I love that. Ryan, I had a great time. Anything else you want to say before I let you go?
No, man, I just want to acknowledge you, and I appreciate you. I think that you have a new book coming out.
Yes.
Well, we talked about that. So I want to congratulate you on that. Writing a book is something that a lot of people, don't really know if they haven't done it, what's involved. It's a lot of work, man.
It is a lot of work, man, for sure.
I just want to share my respect for you, and this opportunity. And I wish you congrats on the book. And
thank you.
I had a good time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. For the rest of you guys, do me a favor. Please make sure you check out Ryan, look him up, contact him, see if you can work with him. He definitely has a lot of knowledge, and, stay tuned for the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. See you guys.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.